Fishos, I'm getting some pretty respectable reports flowing through from most places at the moment. The good oil from down Albury way, Meso, tells me that Dartmouth's still going okay. They're getting quite a few trout out of it, but they are down deep. The Macquarie perch slowed down a little bit over the last week, not getting as big a numbers, and the yabby seem to have gone pretty quiet again for some reason. We're not seem to be getting too many out of there, but all the streams are fishing well. One thing he did say that they're going to let a fair bit of water down the Mitter on the weekend only, from what we can understand at the moment. So the weekend might be a little bit ordinary. Really depends. Usually these streams, when they come up and go down really quick, they go off the bite for a couple of days, but we'll just wait and see what happens there. I'd expect by the middle of next week should be firing up again without too much trouble. Really good numbers of redfin coming out of the Hume Weir, some pretty good size ones too. I mean, you get 100 odd fish for a session without too much trouble. You'll be able to keep 20, 30, 40 of them. Depends on how keen you are filleting, and you'll get a really good feed out of them without any doubt. Small yabbies seem to be the go. Little soft plastic atomic yabbies are one of the favourite baits down there at the moment. Just run a Paternoster rig, 2 of those on, and you'll do really well. Casting blades or any soft plastics cover it. If you're going to take bait like yabbies or worms, make sure you take bucket loads of yabbies and worms, because you'll go through them in 10 minutes if you only take a dozen or two, or 10 seconds if you take a dozen. So just keep that one in mind. The river below, the Hume Weir, right down to Mulwala, some reasonable reports from there. You know, most places are getting their 3 or 4 fish for the day, or for a session, should I say. You put a full day there, it wouldn't be a problem to catch a dozen or more fish, I wouldn't imagine. And if you get down into Mulwala, we're getting fantastic reports from Mulwala at the moment. A lot of fish getting caught on spinner baits, on hard bodies, on surface lures. There's no real sort of system that seems to be working better than another. Just got to find the patches of fish in the lake. Drain Lane seems to be pretty consistent down around Kiffins, and also where the Ovens runs in. Getting good reports on those areas for surface lure fishing. Trolling seems to be pretty good all over the lake. Not a lot of monster fish, but some reasonable sized fish in amongst them. So we're pretty happy with it. Murrumbidgee River and Old Man Creek, it doesn't get much better than what it is. Plenty of fish coming out of it. Obviously when it comes up real quick and it'll take a day or two, or even half a day probably, for it to really settle again and things start to fire up. But you just keep that in mind. Most of the time it's fishing incredibly well, but if we get sudden rises and sudden falls, there is a little bit of a change, and it really kicks things out of gear, for want of a better word. A lot of good cod getting caught, a lot of good yellow belly. Most of the yellows are just below Berrenbed Weir down towards Narandra. They're getting a few in Bundagerry Channel. It seems to be quite good. Old Man Creek's producing plenty of cod and yellows. The canoe fishermen in the creek are doing extremely well. Surface lure fishing in the creek seems to be better than what the river is, and in the channel it seems to be quite good as well. So just keep that one in mind. So we're pretty happy with that at the moment. Chermont River, a little bit of a task there at the moment because it's running high, but run a size 1, ball sinker, roll the bait along the bottom, and whether you're using worms or little yabby tails or anything like that, you should get some pretty good results out of that without too much trouble at all. Blowering Dam, some really big cod coming out of Blowering, which is pretty standard for Blowering Dam. You get up there, you troll of a night time, you'll get some decent fish if you put in the hours. Lots of hours on the water, get the odd fish, so it's looking real promising. But they are metre plus fish in a lot of cases. A few yellowbelly getting caught. The redfin through the day are in big numbers, and they're getting quite sizable reddies there too. You'll find a lot of small ones admittedly, but if you look around hard enough, you'll find plenty of decent fish. If you're going to go up there with bait, again, bucket loads of yabbies, bucket loads of worms, and you'll do quite well. If you like using soft plastics, the same story. Little atomic yabbies do the job extremely well. Little Yakumito blades, one of my favourite blades for fishing for redfin, cast into the deeper water and just slow retrieve, you'll get some good results. Or the 65mm squidgy green grunter, pretty hard to beat. Not the bigger 70mm, a 65mm in the green grunter, with a 3 to 5 gram jig head, depending on the depth you're fishing in. Very, very good. Talbingo, a few reddies coming out of there. Not a great deal of activity on the trout. If you're going to fish trout there, lead line, downriggers, something of that nature will cover the options pretty well. Burren Juck, still getting good reports out of the Juck. The yellows aren't as good as what we'd like, but I reckon once it gets down another 5 or 10%, it's going to go absolutely crazy. Getting plenty of cod, and you'll get a few yellows trolling that last hour before dark. You can't miss there. Wangler, very good report still coming out of there. Real happy with it. As long as you can get good weather up there without the blowy wind and without the ski boats and the jet skis, you should do all right. Yukonbean, Tantangra, Jindabyne, all fishing well. Tantangra still fishing okay. This is the Complete English Fishing Report for this week. We'll catch you next week.